I'll be reading from Matthew chapter 27, verses 20 through 21. Matthew chapter 27, verses 20 through 21. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barrabbas and to put Jesus to death. But the governor said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barrabbas."
So when Jesus is on trial, something's mentioned here. Obviously, it's part of a very strange custom. If you go ahead and look at Matthew 27:15, we'll kind of go into a little more detail from what Isaac just read for us. But it's a pretty strange custom. If you kind of maybe back up and take a second look at this, it says, "Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the people any one prisoner whom they wanted." And I got thinking, can you imagine if we had that custom in our culture today? It would be a very strange situation. Maybe every New Year's Eve, television commercials would start coming on and say, "Okay, it's time we're going to pick one prisoner in the prison system, and we're going to release them, and you guys get the vote." I can imagine a reality show probably based on it, and there'd be maybe commercials and campaigns. I bet you a bunch of prisoners would be on their best behavior and be writing letters and say, "Choose me. I want to be the one released." I think we just read this sometimes and forget that this is kind of strange what they're doing to let somebody go from the prison. It's kind of hard to predict how we would handle it, but one thing I do know, I'm pretty sure I could predict this, that if we had this custom today, we would find a minor criminal of some sort. We would pick an embezzler or somebody who didn't pay their taxes or a counterfeiter, somebody pretty like, let's say, a white-collar crime kind of thing. They would pick somebody pretty harmless. So the custom itself during this time of Jesus is pretty strange, but what's really strange to me is who they release. This is pretty crazy, their decision here. Pilate's making this real effort, very admirable effort to set Jesus free, and he's trying different strategies. I don't know if you've really noticed when you've read about Pilate, he's really making a go of it to try to get Jesus out of here safely. And so at this point, he places Jesus next to a convicted criminal, and this seems like a sure thing. Okay, which one would you choose? This innocent man who you don't like, or this convicted criminal? Which one are you going to release? I'm pretty convinced Pilate is thinking this contrast is going to work. Surely not Barabbas. Here's Matthew 27:16. At that time they were holding a notorious prisoner called Barrabbas. So when the people gathered together, people said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that because of envy they had handed him over. So Pilate knows the real agenda behind these guys. And he knows it's not about justice, it's about jealousy. And so he gives the people a choice. So there's kind of two groups here, by the way. There's the religious leaders, and then there's the crowd. And Pilate is kind of talking to the crowd because he knows these guys are jealous. But he has underestimated what they're going, the lengths they're willing to go to. These leaders go to the crowd among them and kind of campaign to sway the vote. Say, "You guys need to pick Barabbas. This guy's got to go down." So it's very much a concerted effort to bring Jesus to trial. So they manipulate the crowd. They swing the vote. Here's verse 20, Matthew 27:20. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to put Jesus to death. I'd be curious. We don't, of course, have any photographs, but I would be very interested in see the look on Pilate's face, the shock that must have crossed his face when they come back with their decision in this. This had to be amazing to him. Here's Matthew 27:21. As no one in their right mind would choose Barabbas, but the governor said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who's called Christ?" They all said, "Crucify him." He said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they kept shouting all the more, saying, "Crucify him." It's not that anybody was a fan of Barabbas. I don't think he really had any real support out there. In fact, we know he was not a good guy at all. We know why he was in jail. In John 18, he's described as a robber, but it's in Mark 15 we get a little more detail about this guy. Mark 15, verse 6, we find out why he's in prison. Mark chapter 15, verse 6 says, "Now at the feast, he used to release for them any one prisoner whom they requested. The man named Barrabbas had been imprisoned with the insurrectionists, kind of rioters, who had committed murder in the insurrection." So you look back on this, it seems pretty insane. They're going to release a murderer and then execute a man who's been helping people. So it leads to a very important question. Why? Why would this group of people choose? I mean, there's no real dilemma here. It's not like it's a close call. Why choose the obvious wrong answer? I know why the chief priests and the elders did it. It was because of jealousy. It was obvious to Pilate that this was the case. Jesus hadn't done anything wrong. They just didn't like Jesus. They didn't like him. So next question is, why didn't they like him? What made them so mad that they're ready to release a murderer instead of letting him go? And one reason is he made them look bad. There were multiple times when Jesus confronted them. Just a few quick examples. In Matthew 23, he exposed their selfish motives and revealed how empty their religion was. In Matthew 23, he called them hypocrites, and that's what they were. He called them blind guides. He said, "You're like a really pretty tomb, really pretty on the outside, rotten on the inside." And this made him mad. And that's why these guys are choosing Barrabbas. But what about the people? What would make them choose this guy? Now, we know they're manipulated by the leaders, and we could, I guess, argue that it's a mob mentality, that they're just like, okay, Barabbas, okay, that's where we're going. Everybody vote Barabbas. But I suspect there was a seed of contention already there, something that they could kind of grow. Because Jesus did do a lot of things that people liked. He brought people back from the dead. He healed them. He gave them food. But he did some things that the people did not like. He exposed their ideas that were faulty about their religion. He caused the scene in the temple, literally turning everything upside down. And he demanded extreme commitment from everybody, all or nothing. And so the crowd, I believe, was easily swayed because of these things to make the bad choice. So it's important to put ourselves in the crowd. That's what I'm going to just do briefly this afternoon. It's easy to read about these people and just shake our heads and say they're so dumb. It's a stupid choice. I would suggest the same choice Pilate gave to the people is given to us every day. Every day, you choose between Jesus and Barabbas, so to speak. And believe it or not, most of the time we choose Barabbas. The people in the crowd, unless they made a real effort to make the right choice, the easier choice would prevail. I suspect there were people in the crowd who are saying, wait a second, why are we letting Barabbas go? This guy hasn't done anything wrong. But the sheer momentum of the crowd may have swept them away. And the same with us. Unless we really make an effort every day to choose Jesus, the easier choice will prevail. We get up every day and we enter a world that has chosen Barabbas. And you and I have to make the conscious choice to not be a part of the crowd, to choose Jesus. If we don't choose Jesus, I really believe this, if we don't make the conscious effort every morning, say, I belong to God, I'm following Jesus, we will by default release Barrabbas. And we will do this for the same reasons the crowd did. When it comes to really choosing Jesus, it's sometimes going to be difficult because Jesus will make you look bad. As a Christian, there's no room for hypocrisy. Every day we're trying to live like him, and that's not going to go over too well. The world's not always thrilled when you're letting your little light shine. So it'll be easy to lay low spiritually once in a while. Mark 8:38 warns us, for whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. It's difficult to always really stand up for Jesus and everything that he said. And that's why people don't choose Jesus every day. Because if you do choose Jesus tomorrow, it's going to cost you something. It may very well cost you some strange looks and maybe even some animosity. But being a Christian means kind of facing the mirror every day. In James 1, it talks about it's like looking in a mirror. That's not always easy to do, to see our reflection in the Word, and we have a choice to stay the same or to change. If we choose to stay the same, it's like choosing Barrabbas. The only way to really choose Jesus is every day be in the Bible and say, okay, what do I need to do? How can I become more like Jesus? Like Jesus with the Pharisees, our motives get exposed. We're called on our selfishness. Philippians 2, verse 3, do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind regard one another as more important than yourselves. This kind of attack on our selfishness can be annoying. You see, what I'm getting at is that there's certain things that are difficult to have Jesus do to our lives, and so a little bit of a push, and we can set out with the day not choosing him because it's just easier. Again, Jesus confronts us in the same way he did with them. He's not going to let us just have empty religion. Matthew 7:21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven will enter. And he demands extreme devotion. It's all or nothing. Matthew 16:24. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So think of it this way. We're in the crowd, and we consciously, like this afternoon, we're going to say, yes, we're right, we're good, we're trying to do the right thing. If we do not consciously choose Jesus, there are certain elements within us that a little bit of a push in the wrong direction will get us to choose badly, kind of like those people in the crowd. We look back on that crowd, but here in our situation, we have a tendency to choose unwisely by choosing Barrabbas, and we do it for similar reasons, because really following Jesus tomorrow could not put you in good standing with the world. It could make you look bad. It reveals our flaws when we follow Jesus. It opposes our selfishness. It messes with our religion. And it confronts us with extreme devotion. It's going to be easier tomorrow to just kind of go default. And that's choosing Barrabbas. And you may have noticed something. You've probably noticed some days are filled with anxiety and selfishness, and we've all had bad days like this, and you get to the end of some days and you think, what a mess this was. It seemed like every time, not just the inanimate stuff coming after you like we're talking about, but just your own choices just didn't go well. It was one of those days where you wish you could kind of go back and relive it and fix it. It's almost like somebody intentionally messed it up. Like someone escaped prison and ran around your life sabotaging it. And you might think that in this analogy, I'm going to suggest that Barrabbas is the devil, and there is some truth to that, but the truest truth, when your life is going badly, it's not just Satan. He is the adversary, and he's determined to ruin you. But when you don't set Jesus free to run your life, the one you do set free to run it, the one who ends up running it into the ground, it's you. I guess that's what I'd like to suggest, is that every day you either release Jesus to run your life or you release you. And you are a notorious insurrectionist when it comes to living life. Every day you've got to make that choice. Barrabbas is yourself and all the things that we tend to do that make our days go badly. Every day we've got to deny ourselves. That's what he says. Deny yourself and follow me. Choose Jesus. Don't try to run it on your own. When it comes to life and peace and happiness, Jesus is so much better at it than you are. This is something it helps to kind of put myself in that crowd and face each day this way. Right now we're singing a song, and there's all kinds of choices that are in front of us, not just today and tomorrow, but the rest of our lives. But I really would like to encourage all of us to take it as being this real. Tomorrow you're going to release somebody, and you're going to release them to run your life, and I would highly recommend that you and I both choose Jesus. Let's go ahead and stand together and sing.
Days are filled with sorrow and care, hearts are lonely and dreary, burdens are lifted at Calvary, Jesus is very near.